Chris with Earth Sciences New Zealand here. Yes, that's right, Earth Sciences New Zealand. We used to be NIWA, but NIWA, we're in a relationship with GNS. So NIWA, GNS have combined to produce one entity called Earth Sciences New Zealand. Still the same folks, but we're coming together to do better stuff. Simple as that. So let's talk about some weather. We got plenty of that coming. Look at this. We are recording this Tuesday afternoon. And look what's happening across the ditch over toward New South Wales and Sydney. That is a pretty beefy low. You can see the spin. You can see the air coming into the low. That's what low pressure is, a hole in the atmosphere. And that low is going to move east, giving Aotearoa, New Zealand, a good drop of rain. Unfortunately, in the same areas that saw heavy rain and flooding last week. So as I play this through, just to give you an idea of how that low is going to unfold, because, I mean, from one aspect, you know, it's really intriguing. It's almost art in some ways. You see something like this, but unfortunately, this art does have another side, and that is heavy rain that'll be moving into the country. So what I can do here is shift gears, and I'll go to a different way of showing this. So this is an atmospheric river, by the way. How do we know? Well, I'll show you this, actually. Let me go back to this model, and I'm going to show you the connection. So an atmospheric river is simply a river of moisture in the atmosphere. This is not some made-up term from, you know, something like from some sensational tabloid magazine. This is actually a term from researchers, I believe in the early 90s, from all places, MIT in Massachusetts in the States. So this is a research term. Anyway, call it what you want, but you can see why we're going to dub this an AR, atmospheric river. Can you see the connection? Here is New Zealand, and you can see this wedge of moisture. Again, it's a river of moisture, but in the sky. You can see that quite nicely. In fact, if I kind of shift our view, you can see it extends all the way up to New Caledonia. Here, let's go to a global model. We can kind of get a better perspective of that. This has reaches into not only, say, New Caledonia, but also, look at this, Papua New Guinea. I mean, we can trace the connection of this all the way back, Papua New Guinea, into the Tasman Sea. That is a great definition of an atmospheric river. You can see that connection all the way into the tropics and subtropics. Right, enough of the science lesson. What does this mean for you and me? Well, I think for Wednesday, we're pretty much A-OK. That rain is well to our west and northwest. Let's bring things forward to, say, midday Wednesday or thereabouts. Look, there will be a pretty good drop of rain if you're in the Tasman Sea. But look at over toward New South Wales and over towards Sydney. They're going to get anywhere from 50 to 100 millimeters of rain and very strong wind. So they'll have a pretty good weather event on their hands. But for us, things start going downhill Wednesday night and eventually into Thursday especially. So here we are early Thursday morning. You can see those bars climbing. That is because that is where the heaviest rain is expected. So the taller the bars, the more the rainfall. And you can plainly see, unfortunately, that's the northwest corner of the South Island, the Tasman region. Also, to a lesser extent, but still evident, Marlborough, the Richmond Ranges, south of Nelson. And yes, up across the North Island. Let's zoom in and maybe spin around a little bit here. We can get a better perspective. You can see across the North Island, there will be some significant rainfall across Northland and especially interior Bay of Plenty and over toward the northern parts of Tairāwhiti, Gisborne. Here we are by 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday. So this is a forecast that, let's see here. There's midnight Thursday. So we're talking about 30 hours, a little over a day in terms of rainfall. And you can see over Tairāwhiti, Gisborne, we're talking amounts near or more than potentially 200 millimeters of rain. So backing that up one more time and kind of playing that through, you can really get a sense of how this weather system is going to evolve. There it is spinning over the Tasman Sea. And there you can see quite plainly tugging down that moisture from the subtropics and the tropics all the way into Aotearoa, New Zealand. And along with those heavy showers, there'll be some thunderstorms. So let's go to kind of an hour-by-hour kind of play-by-play of what's going to happen potentially or what is likely to happen. Again, this is guidance, not gospel. There's the low. You can see, it's a beefy low when these isobars, lines of equal pressure, are tightly packed. There is the low center right here that I'm pointing to. And this is Wednesday night. So that rain just getting into the upper North Island as well as the upper South Island. And as we move through time, here we go, Thursday morning. Look, that's snow, maybe some heavy snow, but that's over higher terrain. This is a warm, moist airflow. We'll talk about that in a moment. So snow levels are going to be pretty elevated, but higher peaks will see a good dumping of snow. But yeah, look at toward Nelson, especially the Richmond Ranges, over toward the ranges in the Tasman. You can see that is heavy rain that is likely later in the morning on Thursday, and that heavy rain will continue into Thursday afternoon, eventually easing Thursday night. So the good news, Thursday night, that goes away. So Thursday, it will rain hard. In fact, let's have a look at rainfall potential by Thursday evening. And you can see up across the higher elevations of the Tasman region, certainly 100, 150 millimeters of rain, very possible. The hills and the ranges over east and south of Nelson, over Marlborough, the Richmond Ranges, 50 to 100 millimeters, quite possible. Again, this is by Thursday evening, mind the clock. But as we go back to the hour-by-hour forecast, you can see as we get close to 5, 6 in the morning, look at that, another round potentially of showers and thunderstorms. And that will fall not only on saturated soils. Keep in mind, we had that flooding event last week, right? We're getting this heavy rain we're expecting Thursday into Friday. So what it would take to cause flooding is different because the ground is wet. The rivers are running high. The ground being wet, there is going to be increased runoff into the rivers. Simply not as much can be absorbed. Think of a wet sponge. A wet sponge is not going to wipe up or soak up the water from the countertop, is it? No, it's not. Not like a dry sponge would. So after a very wet Thursday, then a break Thursday night, there is that break Thursday evening, Thursday night, another round of showers and thunderstorms likely to impact the upper South Island as early as, say, pre-dawn hours on Friday into Friday morning. And by Friday morning, again, mind the clock here, this is by 6 o'clock right here, there could be some areas approaching, maybe exceeding 200 millimeters over the higher elevations of the south, of the, say, Tasman region of the South Island, over toward the Richmond Ranges, closer to 100, but over the northern part of Marlborough, across the higher elevations, better chances of approaching or exceeding 100 millimeters of rain. Blenheim could see roughly 40, maybe 50 millimeters of rain by 6 a.m. on Friday. Let's go to the North Island because they're going to get a good drop of rain as well. So we'll back things up, and here we are Wednesday night. This is just before 10 o'clock at night, and rain probably just getting underway. Let's center our view just a little bit better so we can focus here in on the North Island. There we go. And you can see rain getting into Northland by 9, 10 o'clock Wednesday night. And as I bring this forward, you can see that rain overspreading the entire, well, I say entire, much of the upper North Island anyway, the upper half. And by 7 o'clock in the morning, it's raining across much of the upper North Island from Taranaki, Central Plateau, all the way into the Bay of Plenty. And you can see some pockets of heavy rain now emerging over toward parts of the Northland region. So let's zoom into that area because that will be a focal point for heavy rain later Thursday morning and into even Thursday afternoon. You can see these waves of rain moving into the Auckland area later Thursday morning around midday or so. Look, as I say, we are recording this Tuesday afternoon, so the timing, the exact rainfall amounts, these are all going to change. We're a couple days ahead of time, but this is a pretty good theme that you can take with you and make some plans and at least a starting point of what's going to happen as we work our way into Thursday. And I should know, as we center our view a little bit more toward the Auckland area, one thing I am noting here, see these areas of pink and purple? That's heavy rain. There could be thunderstorms. And no, we'll see. But, hey, this is 5:30 in the afternoon, early evening. Look, we're in school holidays, so perhaps the traffic is a little bit less. than usual. But look, man, it's still rush hour with 1.3 million people. School holidays or not. If this does happen, that will be an impact in terms of heavy rain, evening rush hour, major population center. So that's something we have to watch for. Hopefully, the timing speeds up or slows down, and that heavy rain does not fall between, say, 4 and 7 o'clock, late Thursday afternoon, early evening. But at the moment, you can see, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, all very possible. And these could be some beefy thunderstorms. You can see the wind. There's a lot of wind energy, even outside of the rain or the thunderstorms or the heavy showers. There's going to be some pretty gusty northeast winds. You can see gusting 70, 71, 63, 65. You get the idea. This amount of wind energy when there's thunderstorms does pose an elevated chance for damaging winds. Remember last week we saw those wind damage, whether it's a tornado or not, that's academic. The fact was, or is, there were some areas that saw some wind damage because of heavy rain and thunderstorms. I'm not going to rule it out this time. This is a very similar weather system, not the exact same, but a very similar one. So that is something we have to be concerned about, the threat for thunderstorms, and some of those thunderstorms having very heavy rainfall because it's an atmospheric river. I mean, again, look, as we zoom out, that connection going where? All the way to New Caledonia. I mean, look at this. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but this is an atmospheric river. This is what it is. So, and you can see that Congo line of moisture going all the way from New Caledonia all the way into the upper North Island right here where I'm pointing to. That rain does end. It shifts out of the Auckland area into places like Hamilton, into the Eastern Bay of Plenty. In fact, as we move ahead to about, say, 11 o'clock Thursday night, that rain is done with. In fact, that rain leaves Auckland probably by 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. So that's good news if you have evening plans Thursday. We could see some localized flooding. Look, it's been very wet in Auckland the past couple of months. I think at my place in northwest Auckland, I've had, over the past 3 months, over 700 millimeters of rain in the past 3 months. So the ground is saturated. So heavy rain may cause localized flooding and slips across Northland and Auckland. So you can see by 8 o'clock, the rain is east of Auckland. Again, timing may change. We'll see how this goes. And then moving into the Bay of Plenty, into the interior Hawke's Bay, and then into Tarafa de Gisborne, particularly about the ranges. And in terms of rainfall totals, again, this is an indication. The greatest amounts are likely to be over toward the ranges, Raukumara. You can see 200, 240, maybe 250 millimeters. Again, this is by 6 a.m., let's say near or above 200 millimeters. We'll kind of broad brush it here. But that's well north of Tarafa de Gisborne over toward the ranges right here, right? Now, farther to the west over places like Opotiki and Whakatane, to the south of that, you can see we have some pretty impressive colors here. So these areas could see upwards of 100 millimeters, give or take. And you can also see some pockets in the Coromandel, 70, 80, 90 millimeters of rain. Likewise in Northland, 50, 60, 70 millimeters of rain. Auckland area, 40, 60, 70 millimeters of rain. But a lot of this falls in like 12 hours, right? 12, 18 hours. So the risk for flooding, the risk for slips, quite possible where the heaviest rain falls and where the ground is most saturated from previous events. Again, this will change. And if we get thunderstorms, that'll just increase at a very local level the chance for some localized, very heavy rainfall amounts that may cause some localized impacts. It is going to be warm and gooey. Can I say that for? Yeah, I can say that for July, right? So look at this. This is dew point temperature. This is another way of looking at how humid the air is, and you can plainly see what I like looking at this. Why I like looking at this, by the way, it's like throwing water, or throwing dye, I should say, into water. You can really see the currents. You can really see the nooks and the crannies of the atmosphere. It's a fluid. It flows. And you can plainly see, look at this tongue, if you will. That's not T-O-N-N-E or T-O-N. That's the other spelling. You can see coming from New Caledonia all the way down into the upper North Island. That is some very juicy air, particularly for July. And you can get a really good sense of that when we go to our global model and go to our dew point temperature. I mean, you can really see that atmospheric river quite nicely as I back things up here, zooming out just a skosh and moving forward in time. I mean, can you see, look at that? You can see that how that warmth, that moist air gets tugged down from the tropical north. Temperatures are going to be warm, man. There's no doubt about it. When you get up and you're out and about Thursday morning as rain is falling, Thursday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, 16, 17 degrees and with moisture for the upper North Island anyway, north of the Waikato. So it will be a pretty warm and muggy sort of period, Thursday into Friday. Then on Friday, we'll have to watch, much like the South Island, you can see how there was those showers and thunderstorms I pointed out earlier. Well, there they are, just a larger view. All this back here is probably going to impact us. In fact, let's go to a global model, and what we can do is kind of get a sense of what happens to that low as that low itself gets closer. Keep in mind, ahead of it is the atmospheric river. Then we have this gap that I'm pointing to. Then we get a second round of showers, and that's what we're going to see play out. There we go. You can see on Friday, showers and maybe some more thunderstorms, and that continues into Saturday. So it looks like, school holiday plans, you want to do things outdoors with the kids, I would avoid, for much of the country, upper South Island, much of the North Island, I would avoid Thursday certainly, and I would avoid Friday. I may even avoid Saturday. One place that may get away, Friday, maybe Hawke's Bay. You'll dodge a bullet, so to speak, perhaps, for Hawke's Bay. By the way, I think the lower South Island's probably going to have the best weather. I mean, if you look at rainfall, hold on, let me get it up here. Where is the least amount of rain going to occur? Let's just look at our map. It's going to be over the lower portion of the South Island. So where is the least amount of rain expected by 6 o'clock Friday morning? Well, interior Otago. I'm not saying there'll be zero rain. I mean, clearly there'll be some. But look. Yeah. So that's probably the best chances for outdoor activities with the kids, school holidays. Otherwise, it's movie time, baby. That's it from me. Just stay on top of the watches and warnings from MetService. They'll keep you covered. We're constantly chatting with them. And this event in itself probably would be, moderately impactful, but because the ground is so darn wet across the top of the South Island and to a lesser extent a good chunk of the North Island. In fact, I can show you this real quick, he said. Soil moisture. Yeah, look. I mean, one place where this rain could be used is lower Hawke's Bay, so let's hope to get some rain there. But you can see top of the South Island, particularly where there's blue, that's super wet. But even where it's not blue, this darker green, anywhere in the green, it's close to normal, but it's on the wet side of normal. So, look, the top of the South Island, we do have to watch that because of the recent rainfall and what that could do in terms of slips and flooding. Again, MetService will keep it covered with warnings. In the meantime, I am Earth Sciences New Zealand meteorologist, Chris Brandolino. I need to get used to saying that. I will mess that up. You know that will happen. I put the over-under over the next month at 3.5. And I'll take the over, meaning I'll mess up at least 4 times. We'll see you next time. Namahi Nui.